Okay, so what we'll do is have a regular commission meeting on Monday, and then Wednesday we'll do the payday.
Okay.
Okay, rather than one meeting on Wednesday. Anything else come before the board?
I have nothing.
Okay, I entertain a motion for adjournment.
I so moved.
We are adjourned.
Well, I can look forward to see how many is going with this case next Thursday.
I don't know yet.
Is that a one-day?
Yeah, it's just,
Yeah, it's just not. from
Yeah.
like
it's for
9
just
o'clock.
commissioners and roads
I would like
supervisors.
to go, but we'll see how it turns out here.
I'll probably go.
Just
Yeah.
need to know
What
by,
date is it now?
it's the 2nd, April the 2nd, Thursday. A week from this Thursday. Need to know by Friday.
Yeah.
Could be outside, I'll let you.
Please just follow me.
Okay.
If you sign up, fine, go ahead and sign up, you can, fine, it's not a big deal anyhow. I didn't show up.
Is that the one that we went to in South Dutch?
No,
That's at the
it's
Grand Prairie.
it's a
No, but I
Grand
mean, the one a
No,
year or
that's
two
solid
ago.
waste.
Oh, that's solid waste. Okay.
This is with KDOT and all the officials and stuff.
District 5, I think it is, isn't it?
They tell us how much money we're not gonna have.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
All roads we can't fix.
Yeah, telling you all about the transportation bill, there is no money to fund it with.
Yeah, that's what
The only other good news is, right now, some material still hasn't been bought, so I don't know if we're gonna get to make it next month.
Really?
This I never seen such a big mess in my life.
We've been hauling in some.
Yeah, we've been hauling material in for it,
Clean up there a couple days ago, Kirkco.
but now they're telling, I mean, the company at their plants has no material, no base material right now to even make anything. It takes at least 30 to 45 days when this all gets done to haul in enough base material to start making the product. So, several counties, we found out about this last Thursday, roundtable meeting in Dutch, the road supervisors from Marion County, or from the surrounding
Mhm.
counties. And everybody's kind of scratching their head.
I have a lot of potholes, though.
Well, we're in pretty good shape. We've still got mix left from last
We
year.
should stop off.
We've probably got 3,500 to 4,000 tons, so.
This is, but at least fill the potholes, they're not very old now.
Yeah. Yeah, very little, so. If anything changes on that front, I'll let you know. And there's, nobody's ever seen this before, so.
Yeah.
it's
I
just-
think there's gonna be a lot of that.
Well, you're dealing with the bankruptcy judges that are back in Massachusetts, and they've got no idea how that is affecting anybody out
They
here.
don't care.
Yeah. And the closest oil supplier, Vance Brothers out of Kansas City, well, time you start putting 40 and 35 to 40 cents per gallon freight on, it just becomes real cotton, and you start spending a lot of money in a hurry just for freight. I hope this gets resolved so we can at least kind of see it,
Mhm.
at least see what we had last year and get everything up in shape. What we could have done this year and get part of that out. I mean, 2 years without sealing really scares me. We got by good this winter because we had very much moisture. I mean, it really helped a lot. but
Yeah.
We'd have to have a light winter and seal it again another year. I'm afraid to see what will happen.
Yeah, they'll take care of it, I have that, for sure.
What was the guy's name from our engineering guys? The younger.
John Hobbywell?
Yeah. He was saying something, and he asked me, and something happened, and I couldn't ask him. I didn't have a chance to ask him what he was talking about. But it was something that he was signing off on the stimulus package that counties had submitted that go through their department, that he had been requested to draw up some
I talked to him
estimate.
about it, he said
When was it?
He thought our chances were slim to none to get any out here.
There,
Was
in
that-
this
I asked him
district,
if they'd made sure we're keeping
Yeah.
up with that, and he
Okay.
said, I think you're.
in this district, there was $8 million, District 5, there was $8 million
I mean,
available.
most of it's gonna go back to the larger cities and stuff, he said. He said, out here, we probably won't see much.
I mean, the one project that we had was up there on 4th Street, and it was 1.6 or 7,
Yeah.
2 or 3 years ago, so.
And that was in that
Imagine-
5-year plan.
Yeah, and that's
thing.
what we took out.
Yeah.
I know, he told me that Edwards County resubmitted one because they had pulled it out originally because it was too expensive, but it was a shorter, I mean, it was like 4 miles. So, unless we get them down to shorter increments, I
Mhm.
mean, we've got nothing that will even come close to it.
But those requests, like the 4th Street and all that, is already into the state, right?
It was, we pulled it
Yeah.
out.
But I mean, as it, so the thing is, it goes from the Fed to the state, and to the county.
Yeah, we submit it to the state, and then the state has it in their 5-year plan, and we put money on top of it. I mean, so the longer we go, the more money we have in the pool, if they have it available in the pool, because that's fast drying up.
Because he said something, and then somebody else said something, and I never did get it.
But yeah,
Answer.
they were trying to do that stimulus thing and get stuff out and about, but a lot of it, like they said, was taken care of through some cities, smaller
Yeah,
cities, like
okay.
Hutch and Great Bend,
Okay.
cities that size. Anything else?
No, we'll just drive the car first. Next, so it'd be a
The
week.
second.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're from this.
so we don't have to call up the car anymore.
No, it's a nightmare.
Like Frankie's for them.
Yeah.
Put it out, right?
Okay. Morning.
Yes, sir.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
I don't believe I'm on until 8:45.
Oh, okay.
I'm Jim Leftwick, so
Okay.
I can wait outside or,
No, you don't have to.
okay.
We have no secrets.
Oh,
You did. Just have to wait people.
You don't have to
You
wait.
probably want to wait for TJ, don't you?
well, I hope so, yeah.
Oh,
thank
okay,
you.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's fine.
Kirby Park Cemetery Board has asked if they can use the annex for a meeting, May 4th. May 4th. The cemetery board in town. Is that,
It's fine.
I don't see him, see a reason why not.
That's what it's for, as long as they take care of it, right?
yep.
You know, I thought, on, other people wanting to use it, and, like Kirby said, weddings and such like that, what would be wrong if having them, maybe like have $100 deposit, and if it's left like it is, then they get their check back? And that kind of gives us some insurance there, and we won't cash the check or anything else, but now if we go in there and it needs some cleaning, extra cleaning by, our custodian, stuff like it, and tell them if they keep it clean, leave it nice, you get your money back. And that might be something you might want to adopt or think about.
Yeah.
That's not
I
reasonable.
think that sounds like a good idea.
Do that then?
Huh?
Pardon?
You want to go ahead?
Well, what do you think about it?
I think we should have something.
Yeah, I think it's a
And
good.
that gives us an insurance policy there, it's our guys just say it's there, and it's cleaned up, and it looks like we're like, here's your money, no problem.
So you want
Putting it in for a motion, I'll make a motion that we require $100 deposits on outside parties and individuals using it, the annex, as a security deposit, and it will be returned if the condition that's is satisfactory to it. That's all right.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
And we got a salary increase, you've seen this here yet?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I make a motion, we Michelle Davis's pay range from range 5D to range 5E, effective March 1st.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to increase Michelle Davis's step increase from 5D to 5E. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried.
And just two of them tax credits.
All right, okay.
This bear, I think it's Marlin, the farmer.
Marlon.
Okay.
Marlon.
He was in, no, Merlin's educated.
All right.
Marlin, is that? Okay. He was in Friday and, you know, they've leased the sandy land out here. And they've been asked by Pioneer to put in some test plots for, I don't know if it's weed or what. But he didn't know, you guys would have a problem with that? I mean, they are compensated some, but they have to provide the fertilizer and the herbicides and all of that for the ground. But he just wanted to make sure it was okay with you guys before they did these test
Well,
plots.
this is K-State, gonna have a little small test plot out there, I tell you that, yeah.
Lynn does.
Lynn does,
On
I
his
mean-
wheat, but this was something different that they're doing with spares.
It's just like Pioneer with a seed company,
Yes.
I have something there where it's right there and easy to see,
Yes.
so. I don't see anything wrong with it.
Well, why are we doing a cash rent on it?
That's cash rent anyhow,
So
so I
I
don't
told,
think-
that's what I told him, but he just wanted to make sure that it was
Yeah,
okay with
it's
you.
cash rent, so I guess he can do what he wants to do.
Okay,
Fine with me.
all right.
As long as they say welcome to Stafford County.
And I make motion we approve these two tax road corrections.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And abatements are. Anything else?
That's it.
We'll recess for a few minutes.
But from the state's perspective, you may recall years ago when I was here last, we were just beginning to talk about regionalization, pulling the county efforts together and pooling the money to try and work on regional projects. That's been, we're into our third grant year now of this 2009. When we started in '06, we were getting over $3 million for monies for these various projects. Now we're less than half that. And part of the reason that we're kind of stepping up our efforts to visit with commissioners, visit with communities, is that we see that next year probably there may not be any money for 22. Or if there is any, it'll be greatly reduced, even more so. We've got about, according to our '09 projections, we're going to receive, the South Central region, I should say, is going to receive about $1.5 million. Of course, spread out over 19 counties, that doesn't amount to much. But some of the good things that we're doing in these past grant years is we've just finished drafting. There was another, I will tell you about another large grant that came into effect, the Public Safety Communications Grant, that this region actually received $2.2 million for building a communications infrastructure. When you talk about federal dollars, you know that there's always some kind of requirement they have. Something they want you to do to meet some standard that they're trying to build up, or some capability they're trying to enhance or increase or support. And it's still one of the big things that they're working on since the very beginning, inception of Homeland Security. If you'll remember the tragedies of losing those law enforcement officers in 9/11, because they simply did not have communications capabilities with the other entities. Still a bad situation, and although there's been tens of millions of dollars spent on improving that, that's still one of their main focuses, is bettering the ability to communicate across, from not just one jurisdiction to another, but across county lines, across regions, for the whole state. So that was the reason for the public safety grant. That's some of the main focus that we have as a region working on for the council monies from DHS. So the reason I mention that is that we just got that all finalized. Gentlemen, not being a radio expert, it's an incredibly complex mess out there with so many vendors, so many types of radios, so many frequencies. And then And then the federal government sells part of the emergency communications bands to cell phone users. And then all those radios have to be rebanded to a narrower frequency. So we've got some really good volunteers, gentleman Jim Reed from Sumner County, Michelle Becker over in Marion County, Scott Egbert from Barton County was helping us, Courtney Becker from Hardy County, real radio experts. Hi. And it took a while, but we finally got drafted what we thought was a very good communications project. We're going to buy radios for each county. We're going to also be able to give money to the counties to purchase radios that they can use day to day. The difference here is it's coming out of two pools of money. That Public Safety Interoperability Grant, or PSIC is what we call it, it was limited to radios that were used in emergencies, disasters. And the idea behind it was those radios were going to be able to talk on the state's network, the 800 megahertz, rebanded, narrow banded, all the bells and whistles. That's part of the 2.2 million that we spent for that. Out of the 07 DHS grant money, we're actually able to allow counties to buy equipment that they can use every day, as long as it's from a certain pool of authorized equipment, because we want them to be able to use it every day, but we also want them not to buy something that's so exclusive it still isolates them in the communication interoperability. So we think we've met both goals with that. So, and that should be coming along maybe by the end of April. The county should be receiving their money, if not sooner. So that we're very happy
Well, did
uh,
this
about
problem down in Reedsburg too on that communication?
Oh, it was.
It was a terrible mess.
It really was. We had rescue workers on one side of the town and the other that couldn't talk to each other. They could even see each other and couldn't talk to each other because their radios were so dissimilar. We haven't solved the problem, but we've taken some giant strides in correcting those problems. And I guess the reason I tell you all that, and we're still working on some additional problems, is that we want to try and not dissolve county lines, but we want to be able to try and make them work. The issues of isolated communities here are maybe blending in a little better with their, just on the capability side of it. We're not trying to change counties, we just want them to be able to understand ICS all over the region, or communicate all over the region, and still be able to talk to the highway patrol trooper that's setting up in Topeka and on his way down here with some special equipment that they're bringing. So we're just trying to bring all that together. And that's why I encourage, when I talk to TJ, I encourage every county in the South Central region, which there's 19 counties, that they seriously consider having an emergency manager that is aware, that getting trained, helping be aware of all of the things that are going on, because we're not getting a lot more money, so we've got to do as good a job with the limited funds we're getting as we can, as to build up the entire regional capabilities. And I think the regional council that meets once a month, right now, we've been meeting. Howdy.
Okay, we can go back in.
We can start.
Are we in session?
I've been doing a lot of talking for you guys. Good morning.
Thanks.
Doris, you can join us.
You can go and sit, okay.
This is Doris Tompkins, who has mentioned that she had gone to some training down
Good
in
morning. Oh, yes, yes.
Alabama.
How did you like
I loved it.
it?
Go back.
Great training down
Yes,
there.
it's best.
They take that Cobra, did you go through some Cobra hot training?
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's
Great training.
fantastic.
It's They take this stuff serious.
Yeah, they do.
They can scare the wits out of you if you're not careful,
Well-
because they see firsthand the threats that are affecting our country. There are people out there that would like to see America go
For sure.
away. I don't mean to be alarmist, but they are still out there.
You have to be a realist, not an alarmist.
Mhm.
It's well worth going, I've been spreading the word. I get it bad, and good.
The training's free,
Yeah.
and transportation.
You won't get trained like that anywhere else.
And it's,
That's what I've been telling everybody. Go, go, go.
TJ, I was just telling the commissioners a little bit about some of the projects that we've been working on, trying to, from a regional perspective. I was about to talk a little bit about what the state's doing as far as changes. One of the big projects that the Adjutant General Todd Bunning is very pleased with is we are just about finished with the training center, not in Louisiana, it's Anniston, but the training center in Salina called Crisis City. It's, as a matter of fact, coming up in June, we've got a stop movement exercise for livestock that we're going to begin up there. Plus, we've got a large National Guard, they're calling it Vigilant Guard exercise that will involve all of FEMA Region 7, which is the 4 states right here, Nebraska, Missouri, Kansas, all right here, and we're going to have training that's completed up there at Crisis City. It will involve simulate terrorist attacks, collapse structure rescue. One of the things that we started in the state for that kind of was born out of Greensburg because of the sheer devastation and the fact that literally the county seat, everyone involved in county government was affected by that storm. It was difficult, realized real quick, it's difficult for them to continue business whenever they weren't even sure that their own loved ones were safe yet. It's virtually impossible. So we decided that we had to have some way to support those folks rather than just come in with that initial response. Well, they needed help much further down the road, and we decided to build incident management teams, groups literally of trained volunteers in the region that can go in and manage not manage the county, but they'll manage the incident, the search and rescue, all the equipment that comes in, the managing of companion animals, the debris removal, all of those issues that come up when you have a major storm. That team can come in and then free up the government folks, the mayor, the commissioners, the county clerks, all the people that work there, and free them up to kind of get back to doing the county's business. As we know about Greensburg, it took them literally months to get back on their feet where they were really functioning as a county government again. With the help of, many of the resources were moved over to Haviland. They had people living there, and then over in just west of, the name of that town escapes me, just Mullenville, just 10 miles west there. They actually set up the marriage license, revenue, all of it. They couldn't even, they couldn't even issue driver's license or marriage license, death certificates, nothing. So the idea was we don't have the volunteers, firefighters, police, law, emergency managers that can replace the local government. We don't even really want to. We don't understand all the needs of the county. But what we can do is we've got trained volunteers that are willing to come in and work for a week or 2 weeks that can manage the incident, all the issues with that. So we've built those. We have 3 functioning teams right here in the South Central region, and a total of, we've got 34 people in total, but they're 9-man teams is the way we dispatch them out to the regions if needed. Certainly they don't go anywhere unless they're invited. There has to be a signed agreement from the chair of the county commission and all the commissioners allowing them to actually come in and work on their behalf. So we don't just come in and take over. It's all about volunteers helping the community. The reason I tell you that is that this is going to be an opportunity, that big event in June at Crisis City. We're going to have an opportunity to test 4 separate teams, over 30 people volunteering from the northeast part of Kansas, South Central group, North Central, coming together at Crisis City to actually train together. We'll have a lot of equipment up there. Certainly, if any of you would be interested, they have a VIP function where you can get a tour of Crisis City, a tour of the entire event that's been transpiring over the previous couple of days. That's happening on the 23rd of June, and I can get the information to TJ. If you'd be interested in just coming up and visiting something like that, it's certainly open to anyone. Well, but certainly, they're asking for volunteers. You bet. The National Guard, the Army National Guard, is kind of running this affair, and they're letting us play with them or work with them. So certainly it's something that's still open to that. We're going to send probably 12, 14 people just from our incident management teams, but we've also got search and rescue teams that are going to be out there working in that, doing collapse structure rescue. Just a good training opportunity. So But,
That's gonna be at the old Camp Phillips, or the Nicholas Barracks?
in that
That's where
area,
it's at.
Yeah.
in that area, right there close to Smoky Hill Bomb Range, they actually got the federal government to donate 160 acres there to the state of Kansas. So instead of having to spend some of the grant money we had to actually purchase ground, that was a big help. Plus, what they've done is they've actually had, from BNSF, donated several rail cars. They actually put in tracks and set the rail cars on the tracks, so we have a train derailment event. So this is gonna be a multi-disaster type of event. We'll have, like I said, foreign animal disease outbreak, we'll have those containment issues, then we'll have hazardous material, and then the simulated terrorist attack, we'll have collapsed structure, and all of these things have been built right out there, and it'll go on for 3 to 4 days. And so it's going to be a big deal, actually, starting on the 18th and running until the 23rd, like I said, with the VIP function. Now, that's just one event. So I just want to say that there's all sorts of things going on that we've done in the region, working with the state. I was telling you, though, that's one of the big things the state's doing. One of the other big things we're trying to get done this year for the state is an actual assessment of where we've been since 2006. We started our regional councils in January 2006, and like I was mentioning earlier, we're into our 3rd grant year for that. So we really want to try and identify where we are, how we've done. You know, we spent quite a bit of money. Have we done a good job in achieving those goals and enhancing those capabilities that we're trying? So coming up April 9th, I'm hoping TJ can be there for this. We're having a meeting in Hutchinson where we'll actually do a day-long assessment of our capabilities in the South Central region. This certainly is open to the public, this meeting, but we understand that's kind of, when I say day-long, we hope to be finished by 2:30, 3 o'clock. If we start at 9, we hope to be, we're going to provide lunch and try to get everyone there on the 9th. So that's another thing, and that's happening all over the state of Kansas from April 9th. Ours is the 1st. It'll finish up on April 30th, 31st, and then the state hopes to have all of that information compiled by the end of June, and then by the 1st of July, that week there before the 4th, they hope to have the state preparedness report completed and for 09. And that will be a good overview for everyone, all the partners, all our first responders, hospitals, all of those entities will be able to tell us and look at that document and just see. It'll be available on the website and in printed form, of course. I'm just sitting here running over my mind. There has been kind of significant change at the state level as far as Homeland Security goes. When we, in 2004, when the state stood up its Homeland Security Department, Homeland Security was under one deputy director, and that was Gene Cross, and everything under that was Homeland Security, the National Guard, Air and Army National Guard, and Emergency Management. In November of 2008, the Adjutant General decided that the focus for Homeland Security needed to be more specialized. So he decided to split Homeland Security. Now it's a totally separate entity. It doesn't have any other agencies underneath it. It's shrunk in size. There's 4 people working there. They have their own deputy director, Mr. Bill Chorniak, who reports directly to the Adjutant General. And then Emergency Management and the Air and Army National Guard remained under the Adjutant General in a wholly separate entity. They now have a deputy director, Angie Morgan, and so that's a fairly significant change there. It's they're hoping that because of reduced capability, because funding has kind of decreased in several levels, they're hoping that with a smaller, more focused entity that they can focus a little better on some of the needs of Homeland Security, everything from critical infrastructure, our rail transit ports, our chemical entities, our farm areas, that Homeland Security can focus a little better on that area and not have the added burden of response and support for recovery for major incidences like we had in 2007. We had the first year ever that the state of Kansas had 5 presidential disasters declared all at one time. So it just put a great deal of burden on Homeland Security. So the hope is that by separating it, they can focus a little more on that. The phrase I like to use is that connecting the dots sort of thing, that information intelligence sharing that goes on in the law enforcement agencies that really doesn't affect emergency management in their response to disasters and things like that. So those are just some of the things: the assessment, the crisis city event, the separation of the 2 departments. Those are some of the major things the state's doing. Again, we're having that assessment on the 9th, but in May, we're having a leadership summit in Wichita. And the idea of that leadership summit is bringing together all the chairs, the vice chairs, members of all the regional councils. We have 7 in the state of Kansas, and we'll bring all those people together in Wichita for 2 days with the idea that we're going to set about trying to, how will these councils, now that we're in our 3rd year, how will they continue to involve themselves and grow, and what are some of the initiatives they want to focus on in the coming 3 years, with the possibility that there may not be any grants available to support projects. What are we going to work on? How are we going to stay viable? How are we going to continue to work in the community and make the regional councils a viable part of that? So that's coming up in May the 20th and 21st. And just the hope is that we can continue to make regional councils a part of communities so that we don't lose focus the further we get from large amounts of money, the further we get from the last terrorist attack on American soil. We're just trying to maintain our relevance, and hopefully by getting the leadership together, we can sort through some of those issues and find a mission for the next 3, 5, 10 years. Any questions for me? I guess I should apologize. My name's Jim Leftwick. I should have told you this when I first walked in, but I've been your regional coordinator for the South Central region for the last 4 years, and so I'm happy to be here. TJ invited me, and I was glad to come out and visit, so always happy to do that. And stick with that. I encourage you to take the 800 course too. It's even more enlightening if you could, with the National Response Plan and the critical infrastructure. And although we recommend that you do 100 and 700, certainly we don't need a limit.
He's gonna go all the way.
Did you do it?
I did not test.
It wasn't hard,
I
was
didn't
it?
study it.
I was thinking-
You cheated.
I did not cheat, I took the test.
I was
You didn't look
thinking
at anything
KU's
in
got
the
it.
test. Anyway,
I was thinking,
Test out.
If you know the material, why do you
He
have
doesn't know.
have to read the material?
well, there you go.
You just-
You certainly can. There's no reason why you can't. And I'm thinking KU's got at least 3 more games, so you've got 3 more games.
He could 700 and start on 200.
There it is. Start on those and just keep working.
Well, I know that during the Greensburg and the Maxwell tornado stuff, even the cell phones didn't work because there was no electricity to the towers.
They didn't have-
Exactly.
Satellites didn't work, so they couldn't get on any toll line.
It was
It was a fiasco.
Yeah.
all
Sounded
sorts of
like,
different.
Mitzi's.
And she ended up, she was certainly a victim herself.
Yeah, she
but,
was. The health department. was
very
on the yard.
difficult to bring in enough qualified people to be able to, so, actually, the first time that our incident management teams that I was describing to you actually got used was in Chapman. We sent a 9-man team to Chapman, and they were there for 2 weeks, managing the event, helping the city. The city didn't have a debris removal plan for a major disaster like this, working out the contract with the disposal site. I think was invaluable. The city had nothing but praise for the team that came in that helped them manage all the search and rescue, the equipment, the volunteers that came in. Volunteer management was a huge issue. They had just people wandering around the town, and when you can bring in trained people that had done, that worked Greensburg, that worked Chapman, that worked way back in the Wesington event, some of the volunteers all have been in every one of those events. Plus, they've gone to Katrina and volunteered there for sometimes months at a time. And we're very fortunate to have some really well-trained individuals in this South Central region that are volunteer members of this incident management team, so I hope and pray that we never need to use them anymore, but in the event that there's always that possibility, we like to have them trained and ready to go. So, and we're gonna send them up to Crisis City and give them some more training. You know? But one of the things we hope to achieve with Crisis City is have these teams come in as units and actually work with other teams across the state, so that we would, in a long-term event where the recovery is always the longest part, down in Coffeyville, and they're still trying to get all the issues sorted out with that. Just getting that debris, and that's always a big issue, not just communications, but debris removal and getting it sorted by hazardous chemicals and hazardous waste, white goods, what we call it. It's really a challenge, and having a team that has experience doing that coming in is a big help. It's you mentioned the communication cell phone towers. Another thing our region is doing, which you should see on the ground within the month, hopefully, or end of April, we've gotten approved to purchase. If you'll remember the tall portable tower that they had out there in Greensburg, those are owned by state, KDOT. But we've actually gotten, in our grant for 08, we got permission to purchase 2 of those, a little bit smaller scale, but totally self-contained, they're not quite the 40-foot trailer version, but they're more like the 25-foot trailer version, that will be able to come in and set up communications. And if you'll remember Greensburg, we had 2 of those towers there operating on opposite ends of Greensburg to keep communications open. But about the same time, we had additional flooding in other parts of the region, plus Coffeyville happened later in the year. And the state decided they needed one of those communications towers in Coffeyville, so that these 2 towers will be South Central region assets that we can keep right here, that'll be available on much smaller scale. And when you think about it, it really all comes down to money being available. These things we've set up on the state equipment, unless it's a presidential declaration, there's all the questions of who's going to pay for those pieces of equipment, like those large communication towers, to come into the area. There's just a lot of discussion on who's going to be responsible for the cost involved in that. These 2 towers that we're buying with Homeland Security grant dollars for the South Central region, there won't be that discussion. They'll be available to anyone on an as-needed basis. They just arrive. We have volunteers set up that can transport those. We're actually buying vehicles that can tow those trailers to a location, and they can sit there until they're no longer needed. They won't be called away to another event somewhere else in the state. So that's a real huge step of benefit to helping the counties in responding where all communication is down, cell phone towers. They'll bring with them a cache of 30 handheld radios that will be able to be used for the incident response and management down there during the event. So, like I say, we should see those. Well, they're speccing out the vehicles to tow them with. They'll need to be 1-tons with a 5th wheel application on them. We should have those purchased hopefully by the middle of the year, and sometime this summer we'll have them available. So again, I could talk for a long time, folks, but I'm here to answer questions if there's any that you might have for me.
Well, we just authorized purchase for some new radios/pagers. Now, will they be compatible? Will they, on this, when you were talking about the bands and so on and so forth, the frequencies?
Well, they certainly.
Or do
It's
we
just
waste
like-
money?
No, I wouldn't say that. It's just like the digital TV conversion. You know, we were going to do that February 17th, but it got pushed back. There are some people thinking that the narrow banding, that's the big issue that most people have. Even Sedgwick County hasn't done their narrow banding yet. Now McPherson has, but they've got a different, again, I'm stomping right up against the threshold of my radio knowledge here. So McPherson has done some of that, but McPherson still can't talk to the state's system because McPherson doesn't have a crossband repeater on the KDOT tower right there. Neither does Marion County. We are, as part of our piece of grant money, I was telling you, public safety, we're gonna spend $400,000 on those two locations to actually put crossband repeaters. So what that'll do is it'll bring our entire region up to that. So I think if you bought new up-to-date equipment, which I'm sure you did there, it should be, should help the entire region be more compatible. And again, because it came out, that public safety interoperability grant had some really stringent guidelines on what you could purchase. It had to be P25 compliant digital, it had to be narrow bandable. Although the actual deadline for narrow banding doesn't come up until 2013. If it doesn't get slid, just like the digital TV conversion got slid. I mean, there's some people thinking that may occur, it may not. But you know, Nextel Communications bought up that part of that frequency there whenever they were. And again, I don't know all there is to know about that, but now that the economy has slowed down, some of those plans that Nextel had for their expansion has also slowed down. So there's some thought that maybe this mandatory conversion might also slow down. So, like I was saying, the 2007 DHS money that we allocated for radio equipment purchasing, that's not nearly as stringent a guideline. So as soon as those monies are released for the counties to begin purchasing equipment, you should be able to also to further enhance the things you've already done. So it should work very well together.
Now, the radios that we got, they'll be specific for our county, but the way I understand it is they will have that narrow band capability. It's just a matter of reprogramming. So, because that was one thing that we talked about. Remember this? I was talking to the sales guy. So, because that's most of the new radios that are coming out now have that capability. It's just a matter of reprogramming. So, and then plus, I did add in the frequency list the national frequencies.
National
that are
public
required.
safety
Yep.
frequencies.
They're gonna be in those radios too, so if we go to any other county around us, we'll have those capabilities where we can switch over to these frequencies and we can all talk together, so.
And again, it's such a complicated issue. Some of the things we're trying to encourage local entities to do is when you purchase radios, purchase ones that have 256 channel capability, so you can get those public safety frequencies. The idea is you can, with that many frequencies available, you can program in all the surrounding communities, the state frequencies. There are all sorts of issues with getting on KDOT's backbone system, that 800 megahertz system, but those things are getting sorted out. But if you buy a new radio that only has, say, 16 channel capacity, then even if you wanted to upgrade, you couldn't. So that's when the 2007 monies finally are released. Those folks that I mentioned earlier that had put together that project for 07 worked on an authorized equipment list, that would be compatible. Again, these are strong suggestions. We recommend. Certainly, we don't have any compliance authority again on a county or any entity like that, but we would recommend that you use it to purchase that equipment so that you can talk to surrounding communities. So, and like I say, we should see that money released just here in the next few weeks so that counties can start purchasing equipment.
And that was for the 800 radios?
Well, that's the PSIC money.
Okay.
And it's released already.
Right.
But the 07 money should be released here,
Okay.
maybe, could be this week. It's just getting the paperwork back from DHS. As quick as we get that back, we should be able to move forward on that. All the work's done, we're just waiting for word from DHS.
We went to a regional summit a few weeks ago in Hutchinson. Just a couple of questions I
Sure.
have for you, get your names in there. The regional badging system,
Right.
how's that going?
There was as you might imagine, when you start talking about credentialing, the idea is just how much money do you want to spend trying to attain full credentialing, or do we have just enough money? And this boils down, there's lots of things. So Seth Conkle is the gentleman that's the project lead on that issue. We could spend $1 million to get credentialing all set up and going for one county, or we can spread that money around the 19 counties and actually get a badging system where we don't have every credential. And as you might imagine, when you talk about another complex issue, you've got how many fire districts, mostly volunteers here in Stafford County, but how many fire districts, agencies or entities that you have just in Stafford County, and then trying to validate each volunteers or each paid firefighter's credentials, and then keeping that up to date month to month or year to year would be a huge issue. So what we thought we'd do is get the project off the ground and just have a badging system with a picture on it and location, name, ID, like this, that the individual can wear into a site that would authorize them access to a disaster site, like a Chapman or a Greensburg or Washington, someplace like that. So that's actually where we're going with that. We're not going to do full credentialing and everything. We're just going to do badging and that.
About in the next year or so?
Oh, it should be,
Sooner than that?
oh, hopefully by the 1st of May.
That'll come into the emergency manager's
Mhm.
office, correct?
And they'll receive the badging equipment, capability to make those IDs. And the issue we're struggling with now is just how large the database should be. Should it be interactive? Should Stafford County be able to add data into the database that Sedgwick County has and vice versa and all over? Or do we want to keep that database just in the county and only update it once a year in the region so that everybody has up-to-date information? It's just figuring out exactly how we want that database to work.
Okay, and then the other thing was, they talked about a notebook about communications in each county, like the number of towers, radio frequencies, and that's where your name came in.
That
Has
is,
that been sent out?
as
Because
a
I
matter
asked
of
him
fact,
about
I
it.
have that information with me
Do
for
you?
Stafford
Cool.
County in the
All right.
back of my car.
Okay,
I have that with
because
me.
I asked him
And I was
about
gonna
it,
give it
we've
to
had
TJ.
kind of like revolving door over there, so we didn't know what.
Well, then there's some new information on, as far as statewide communications. The state of Kansas is actually putting together a little flip booklet, plastic like deal that counties can use for information on not just this specific counties. What the information I have is just for Stafford County, but it's for everywhere in the state. But just specific numbers. Emergency communications is what I guess I should say. It's not frequencies for everything that thick, but this is just a small responder type book that you'll be able to look through and see the frequencies if you access it in an emergency situation. And the state's printing 2,500 of those, and I should have, hopefully, here. Because again, it's one of those situations that, Jason Moses, who is the interoperability coordinator for the state, he lives in Colby, Kansas. We're just waiting for that information to be printed from the printers, and we should have that out to everybody. Excuse me. Hopefully by the April 9th meeting, I can hand those out.
Then I just had, we need to work on getting our EOC constructed
Mhm.
here, and the backup plan if the tower goes down, keep addressing some of that.
Right, those
Backup.
portable towers.
Yeah,
The idea of that, the reason we purchased those portable towers is the state will tell you it could be as much as 6 to 8 hours before their large communications,
Is that their cow?
their cow,
yeah.
can be on site. And that's only if it's not being used somewhere else,
Priority is priority, I guess. I think
unfortunately.
we'd be high priority.
So we decided that we purchased 2 of these smaller units that still have great capability. We're gonna put one in Marion County and probably one in Reno County. And they'll be able to respond anywhere in the region in 2 hours.
So that would be our backup plan.
Plus, you're aware that we have a backup 911 center also for emergency communications in Hutchinson. At the South Campus there for the Hutch Community College, there is a backup 911 center there that works very well. As a matter of fact, just earlier this month, Harvey County had to use, they had a major power outage. Something happened, they just lost power, and they were able to divert in a matter of 30 minutes. From the time they lost power, they were functioning again, totally functioning, the 911, in less than half an hour through the Reno County office. They just had volunteers there that went right over there, set up there. So virtually, the people of Harvey County didn't hardly notice any interruption in 911 service because of that. And this again was a project from Homeland Security dollars back in '06 that we put together. So I think the regional council is doing some good things for South Central Region, and all over the state. These, like I said, we have 7 regional councils.
That's all.
Well, wonderful. Hey, that was easy.
I have a lot in there, but that's all. that
I just
I
tested out on
So
those.
she wants to show you.
Well, then I'll go out here and I'll get those
Okay,
books and,
that'd be good.
so you can take a look at them.
Thank you.
I will tell you that we did find that there are some minor errors in there, and certainly it's okay to go ahead and update them. The state will probably update that probably once a year.
Okay.
But, and it is available, I can get you a CD with the entire 19 county South Central region on it, not just Stafford County. All that information. They gave it to me in printed form, and I needed a 2-wheel dolly to move.
Yeah,
It's, I mean, the binders are that thick, and I got 4 of them, so just for the South Central region, so I'll give it to you on CD.
Okay.
Thank you very much for letting me be here today. I appreciate it very much. It's
You're
been a
being
couple,
here.
it's been a couple of years since I was here, so I'm happy to come back anytime. If you have questions, please, I'll give you my card, and you can call me direct, or get in touch with TJ, and we'll get you set up to go to Crisis City in June
I
if
would
you'd
love
like.
to go.
You
Yeah.
bet. You bet.
I'll go. I'll have to ask twice.
Okay.
Training is good.
Anything else? And I'll get out of your
Well,
way.
thanks for coming.
Oh, my
Thanks for
pleasure.
coming.
My pleasure to meet you again. TJ, thanks for
Yeah, thank
inviting
you.
me. We'll see you guys later. I'll go get those books out and call. Thank you. Pleasure to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you. Come back.
You bet. I'll be right out here.
Okay.
So while we're on the subject of EOC, is there any place in this building over here or somewhere that can be carved out for an EOC, Emergency Operations Center? That can be set up with like extra phone lines, internet access, workspace? Like how we, doesn't have to be very big. You can size
Well,
of this room,
it needs,
size it.
no, it needs to be fairly large.
That's county.
Is it small? Main thing that it requires is it has to be like bomb-proof. I mean, we're talking reinforced room that can withstand, like if we were to take a direct hit from a tornado or something,
Rice
that
County
place
is
can
the
still
one I'm
stand.
thinking of, it's in the basement.
We got some.
Yeah, it would have to be. But, and the thing that's, and I don't know all the specifics, but like where we have dispatch downstairs, from the way I've understood it, it needs to be separate. You know?
Separate from dispatch?
Yeah, because if dispatch, something would happen, somebody come in and take dispatch out, then, you know, your EOC, if it's in the same general area, then it could be affected.
But we do need some place that we can just go to in disaster
Well, if we get,
or run the war
if
from.
we get a
so to
moved out, we're
speak.
gonna have some space down the sheriff's office, that area, probably utilize some of that. couldn't we?
Yeah, I would think, I don't know, we definitely need to research it, because it's,
It's gonna be an important thing to think.
Well, I thought all the brains for the 911 and everything was in the basement.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think there's, it
Never
would
been
be
in the
very,
basement.
I don't
No, I
either.
It's
just-
scary.
It's pretty scary.
I've been down there several times. But, that's the hub,
Mhm.
and then there's just a trunk line that runs up to dispatch, as well as a trunk that will be ran over to the annex.
If you ever get a chance, I just think Rice County is just the bomb. They've got it in the basement, they've got several work tables, like I think 3 of these size tables. And they're all internet access, there's like 4 internet access on each one. They've got 2 great big TVs in there, and then they've got a little bit of separate room for the incident commander. And they've got telephone, it's just the bomb.
It's in the basement of the courthouse.
It's in the basement
No,
of the
it's-
health department / EMS.
Yeah, it's a huge, well, I say
It's not
huge, it's a
huge.
nice facility, it sits out on the west side of
Yeah,
Lyons.
they would take you down there, show you anytime. So.
And they just built that here in the last,
No, that's been there
Has it been
since
there
I've
for a
been, yeah, I've been in health here 12 years, and I think they built it before that,
okay,
because they got a grant for that, actually. And NACHO, actually, I got a thing for a grant, they're giving away a bunch of money for public health emergency preparedness, I wonder if I can figure that. I could try to write the grant. They're giving away $3.2 million, my God, we should get some more.
Yeah, right.
I know,
Because I printed it off and I'm researching it now, we'd have to have a budget and stuff like, the budget would be more.
so there was an email that went out here the other day, well, I said the other day, it's last month, that I think in 2007, there was like $14 million or something that was set aside from Homeland Security specifically for EOC centers. And I think they had like 600 and some applicants, and there was only like 21 that were
What happened to the
selected.
rest of the money?
I don't know. So, I mean,
I bought a book too, it's got a lot of information on grant writing and websites to go to and how to find it, so I'm gonna read the book and see if I can. So I think it's an important thing to have. And they don't just use it for that, they use it for meetings and, but it's always up and ready to go if something.
I think Reno County's got a pretty nice one too. I haven't seen it, but I've heard them a lot. Whenever they get storms and stuff, it'll come on, you can hear them on the radio operating from the EOC. So it just kind of takes that relief off of the dispatcher so that they can work from there. So,
It's just an important thing to think about.
I thought there was something in the plan on the annex building that there was gonna be a reinforced wall
With the dispatch.
in the dispatch.
There's no basement in that building.
No.
Reno's County's underground.
like I said, I've never seen it. I'm not even sure
Pratt
where it's
County
at.
has one. We ought to take a tour someday and just go around and look. See what they got.
There, well, I think there would be space in the basement down here. Could do away with a bunch of stuff down there that's never been used. Like parts bins and workbenches and stuff like that. And I mean, it would be,
But it makes sense to have it right next door to where dispatch is, so.
Yeah, you'd be scared down there too.
But, I mean, we can do some check and see if there's any specifics, requirements or, suggestions that people have too.
but I know that all the communications comes into your
Right
basement
there.
because there's a board on this, where am I at, anyway, on the one wall near the tunnel. That's all the 911 stuff. They could hide under the boiler. It's got a big storm.
You ready for the rest of it, huh?
Sure.
Did you check the vacuum?
I have not.
Lori tells me the vacuum at EMS is non-functional. They're using mine right now.
You mean, you're talking about a vacuum
Or vacuum.
sweeper? Oh, okay.
We probably, they never get that back.
Yeah.
That's a carpet shampoo cleaner. It's not a vacuum.
She's talking about vacuum like it breaks on the bus.
Oh, well, that'll be next time. Anyway, so I didn't know if you wanted to
It'll
get
be
it.
strong enough to pull that footprint up there if it's burning the floor, won't it?
That's a iron.
It's-
The iron
it's-
fell over one night or something. That's an iron print. I don't think we got anything on fixed.
Well, you definitely need a vacuum
Well, like I
sweeper.
said, I have an extra that they're using right now. Eight. It's a nice vacuum. Whatever.
Well, probably my vacuum from
Yeah. You probably can buy it
You wouldn't have
for
to-
less than what I want for my curtain.
It wouldn't have to be like anything super special either, because there's not a whole lot of area to
No,
vacuum
I
out
think
there.
we can just do it right over.
Yeah, check out Consumer Report. Sears or something that rate them pretty
that. You need a
high.
motion for that buy vacuum?
Well, yeah.
I'd make the motion.
All right.
Buy vacuum.
We'll buy a vacuum.
It's been moved and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion
You can get those kind of, the robot.
Yeah.
You
You
just
sit in
turn
the
them
chair,
on, let them
sit
go.
in the chair and put it on TV and watch it.
What's the KU game?
There's been a new, I don't know if you want to call it ruling or guideline, whatever, from the state that instead of being 14 when you get your TD update, or TDAP update for school, they're gonna do it at age 11. Also, you have to have like 2 varicellas before the beginning of the 2009-2010 school year. And because of that, it's gonna wreck my budget because it's gonna cost me about $5 grand to buy a private vaccine. To need that. So I'm just giving these, it's probably gonna cost me about $1,500 for the TDAP and about $3,800 for the vaccine.
And there's nothing we can do about it.
There's not a darn thing we can do. Pratt County says it's gonna cost them $12 grand. Phone.
It's the wind whistling through
I
the,
don't think so. You know, it's all both of them. So anyway, you'll be seeing some bills come through for that. I've ordered the state vaccine because depending on if they're privately insured or not. If they're not privately insured and they don't have insurance or they got a medical card, they can give them state vaccine. If they're privately insured, they get private vaccine. So I've ordered already from the state for the state group, but I haven't ordered anything at all yet for the private kids. And what we plan to kind of do is, we do the sports physicals in May. Wichita State PA class comes out every May and does them for free. We're gonna set up a separate station and catch those kids as they come through and maybe we won't have like a big problem, get them all. We've already had some come in from the school, here's already sending out letters.
so you're doing varicella, tetanus, diphtheria,
And pertussis.
and pertussis.
We're doing the TDAP.
Tdap. And that's because of the pertussis outbreak a couple of weeks or a month or so ago. Well, and then they had an outbreak in
There's always an outbreak
Wichita,
somewhere.
whooping cough.
Yeah, so that's the deal on that. The next thing is, tomorrow I have to go to the big town of Junction City for a meeting.
Feel sorry for you.
Anyway, in the state's wisdom, they also scheduled a statewide exercise for Wednesday. I'm going to a WIC meeting. But they also scheduled a statewide exercise, so they said I could do it by phone and TJ's gonna help me by filling out this form and faxing it in. It's basically, we're activating the SNS state stockpile. Like if we had a disease outbreak, we'd have to ask for medication. So that's what that is. I did most of the work back in August at a food pod. The only thing I didn't do is activate the SNS, so that's all we're doing yet. Except they sent all these papers. So I guess I have to do all those too. Crazy. It's crazy.
Somebody's justifying their job and
Well, it comes down from the feds. I
Oh,
guess. That tells you a lot right there. And that's all I think I have for me. Anything for me? Nice to see that. How do you feel? Tired? Not skinny.
Very, yeah. And average, I'm losing 4 pounds a day,
Really? 4 pounds a day?
160 milligrams of Lasix.
in a large bladder.
Yeah, that's your heart.
Thank God, small favors is not very far to the bathroom.
Yeah, 24-hour job probably.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, see ya.
All right, thank you much.
Thanks, Norris.
Okay, I brought the voucher back from last week that Harold had turned in, and I got a copy of the ticket from Midwest Truck and Tractor.
Yeah, it's not that we're coming down on an individual or anything, but, you know, it's like the gas tickets, it's like everything else.
Right.
I mean, we need to have some type of checks and balances when it comes to
You just can't say X $100 for
taxpayers'
that.
money.
That's not- well,
Yeah.
And it's just good business, so.
Yeah. And I got all the books out for the fuel logs and stuff each station, so,
Okay.
make my rounds probably here this week, and pick up what we have, so. And then along with that, you guys still want the actual receipts that you get from the card tolls, correct?
And stress that we really prefer that go to the county yard, you know, to fill up. And-
Yeah,
And only in the case of they can't get back.
yeah. Well, I mean,
And I am one that had to do that once when we went to Topeka. I got as far as Great Bend and I didn't think, you know, we could make it into St. John, so
Yeah.
I purchased gas for the county car. But, yeah, you know, if you got enough gas to make it back to home base, then, I mean, it's to, you know, the taxpayers and well, advantage because I presume we get a little rebate or whatever.
Nickels or nickels cheaper.
well, and I think, and I don't know, maybe I'm misunderstanding, or maybe there's a misunderstanding somewhere, but those card trolls that they're filling up at, they're like at the Stafford, they're at the Enterprise, and then I think they can fill up at the mill at Hudson, and then at the co-op at Radium, and I think Zenith can fill up at the co-op there, I think, at the card troll. So, I mean, it's, you know, it's at their home stations, basically, is what they're fueling up at, so, you know, as opposed to them coming.
Oh, no, there's no need of it.
Okay,
Right.
I was just wanting to clarify.
No,
make sure
but I'm
I-
just saying, someone in
What
St.
it costs to
John,
save nickel.
Right, right,
If-
right, right.
we're going through to there, yeah,
Yeah,
and top
okay.
off the tank.
Where does Harold
About anywhere. So,
Well,
that's-
we need to do a ticket where it's, if he fills up mainly there, insert, the place are insured, it's up to fill up.
Not anymore.
That's right, that's
They're,
right.
they're hoping, I talked to him the other day, he said they're hoping to get that back in service, but they didn't know.
But you know, a couple of years ago, there was incidents of
Mm-hmm.
eating issues of gasoline, and
Yeah.
I just don't want that to happen again.
And that was one of the main reasons why here in St. John, we did away with the cards and we're just filling up the county barn now. So, but yeah, so that's,
But identify the unit that goes into the ticket, they give you a ticket where you go, card.
right,
You ticket, you print one out yourself, you use your card.
yeah.
And
If
then-
paper's not out.
Right on the outside.
But that, and
But
that's where that book
even if
will
they
come
did,
into play.
they leave that paper, go ahead and still jot down what it was.
Exactly.
So we'll know, but
Right, that's where that book will come into play, we can fill in, you know, in case that
in
happens.
case you don't have a ticket, we'll
still
throw the
have-
tickets on there.
Right,
I do anyhow.
yeah. So, we got the place to order for the pager radios, so, I don't know, probably a couple of weeks maybe, we should see those.
Okay.
And then,
So what he was talking about this morning, are these radios we're buying will meet the requirements that we can,
That was one of the things that I made sure, because with this Homeland Security money that we're supposed to be getting in the near future, those radios, we have to have these national frequencies, that's a requirement. They have to have those channels in there. And with these radios, being the VHF radios, which is what we operate on, we had enough channel spacing where I could put those frequencies in there, as well as Stafford counties, Reno and Rice, and I think Pawnee, they're the only other ones that we can communicate with on the VHF band.
But can you communicate with Brad?
No, we're on UHF. So, yeah, Pratt, Edwards, and Barton County are all UHF. So that's what I'm hoping with this money that we're gonna be getting from them. That's what I'd like to do, is purchase some UHF radios where, you know, at least some of our main emergency vehicles, we can put a UHF radio in there, and then purchase some handheld UHF radios, so we can have like a bank of them somewhere, whether here, or, you know, wherever, I'm not sure yet. But, you know, if we go out some the part of the, having the national frequencies in there is if we would get called to another county, you know, other than our immediate surrounding ones where we don't have their frequencies, we can switch over to this national frequency list, and then everybody should still be able to communicate. That's gonna be one of the requirements with everybody to get money for these radios, is they have to have those frequencies in there. And that's the reason is, you know, say if we get somebody from Wichita that comes out to help us for something, we can switch over to those national frequencies and we should be able to communicate back and forth.
So why is Pratt on U and we're on V? And I thought the goal was to standardize.
Everybody get on the same plane.
Eventually, it is, and I
Some
think
people do that.
eventually, everybody's probably gonna be required to go up, or to at least be up to UHF. And the day that that comes, it's gonna be really expensive. And so I think that's kind of why they haven't pushed it, because there's still a lot of communities or counties that are, you know, still on VHF, and they're not gonna be able to afford it unless they get some money from, or some help from the state or federal government or whatever. So,
Well, is it because of the towers? Or was it the band that was
I
assigned to
think it's-
them in the beginning?
I honestly, I don't know how that was all done. Because there's some states that are actually still on VHF, like the entire state.
Mhm.
But, you know, like I say, I don't know how that's set up, I don't know if that was their preference, or, I don't know. But I know, and the thing that they're really pushing is the narrow banding. And the way I understand it, the reason for that is it's kind of shrink these frequencies up a little bit and allow more space for everything else. So, I can understand some of the radio talk, but
Well, it's
some of
just
it's
like
over my
the, you know,
head
the
too.
TV is from
Right.
analog to digital,
Right,
just
it's
to free
to
up.
shrink, free up some of the airwaves
Some of the
and
bands,
stuff,
yeah.
So, and I think, and I know that that's the purpose of going to the narrow band,
Yeah.
is to do the same thing. But as far as, you know, if we're gonna have to switch to a different frequency from VHF, UHF, I don't know, I know there's been talk about it before, but who knows when that'll come down. So, like I say, if it does, it could get really costly, when you have to go through and replace every radio in the entire county.
Well, that's why I'm saying that, you know, we're gonna provide radios, and I thought, whoop, we just bought some.
Yeah, no, these will still go along with what we're needing, so. 'Cause like I say, if we have to go to the narrow banding, then that should just be a matter of reprogramming, and just changing that part. So. Anyway, trucks. Have you seen the truck bids and stuff, Lee?
No,
Those are the 3 bids for cabin chassis that I received.
How do you get along with the burning that's going on in CRP and stuff, really?
I haven't really been too reluctant about letting people burn
Yeah, but do
CRP.
you have I had a question, and why you have the noon shut off, is it, so if they'll go ahead and get some burned down, the sparks won't be coming around at night?
Those
back up?
days, like, according to the weather forecast, and it's been real sketchy lately. But from like 12 o'clock until like 4 o'clock or something in the afternoon, that's when the relative humidity is supposed to like drop into the teens and stuff. And that's when, you know, one little spark can cause something to take off.
Yeah, I explained, I said, well, you realize the surrounding counties don't have a burn ban on it, they can't burn at all, right?
Yeah.
And we are still having to burn on a
Right,
case-by-case thing, and mine was real, so
yeah.
I said,
And
I
that's,
was gonna ask you, that's
yeah,
why.
and that was kind of that's kind of why I had that noon shut off. They could burn up until then, but then, you know, once it got to that,
Plus, if they could burn too late in the afternoon, you might have a chance to rekindle at night, it's good
Yeah.
coming up, and so.
there's a package that I'd that I'd gotten for somebody to actually build the bed, the pump, the tank, and everything. Just those figures at the bottom is depending on what package we go with. But yeah, the burning thing, And I'm getting phone calls day after day. And I understand, you know, that the CRP program, they've got till the end of this month to get their stuff done. So.
Well, what's the other counties doing?
Most of the other, I talked to the
They're not
NRCS
burning all.
office, no, they're under burn bans. Well, Reno County's not.
They're not how they was for a while.
Yeah, I think they lifted theirs.
Barton still is.
Yeah, Barton is, and I think Pratt is. And I talked to NRCS to ask them, you know, with the conditions that we're in, you know, if those guys are gonna get a break, and they said, no. I mean, they've known for so long that they needed to get this done, and I guess they put it off or whatever. So, I'm trying to keep an open mind about it, and, you know, be helpful to them, but at the same time, you know, we got another,
We gotta watch out for
for
this, too.
Exactly. So, that's why I've been kinda going day by day still, watching the weather, and the thing that's been causing a ruckus too is, you know, I look at the weather and they forecast this, well, it may not happen. You know, I mean,
Yeah, right.
that's weather, you know,
That's
I
it.
can't control it. But I'm trying to do what I can to help them out. The only other thing that I'd considered that we may have to look to is if we don't get any moisture, maybe letting them burn at night, because the temperatures are cooler, the humidities are up. You know, I might be able to help them out a little bit. So, but depending on what the next day's forecast is, you know, if they're predicting like a lot of wind, then absolutely not. But, you know, I'm just trying to come up with ways that I can help them out the best I can. So.
I'm sure.
Well, you know, the weather's different here than it is in Reno County.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I know. And that was one thing that I've kind of been doing, because Wichita National Weather Service has gone to this rangeland fire index where they, you know, set it, you know, low, moderate, high, very high to extreme. And they're letting people burn up to very high. Once it hits the very high category, then they shut them off. They'll let them burn on the other ones if the wind doesn't exceed 15 miles an hour, which is the state limit. So I was kind of trying to base it off what their index was and looking at Dodge City's forecast, you know, and trying to compile a little bit to see maybe what we were gonna be getting. For some reason, Stafford County's in a hole out here. We're between the two of them, and we just kind of, they overlap us, so it's pretty tough, but I mean, I've been doing what I can to try to help them out, you know, without compromising, you know,
That's what
some other things, so. But, like I say, hopefully we're gonna get some rain here, maybe. But, you know, otherwise, I'm gonna have to start letting them do something to help them out. And like I say, that was why I was thinking the night burn could be a possibility.
if the wind's
Well,
staying.
it's whatever you think.
Yeah.
We don't want
Yeah,
to burn up some neighbors out there.
Oh, I know, and I'm getting lots of phone calls, and getting lots of pressure and stuff, and like I said, I'm trying to do the best I can, but,
That's what I really was working, trying to work with them
yeah,
as well as we can. Like I said, with the others, got complete burn bans and all there.
yeah.
I can't
And
get
there's been a few of them asked, you know, if we could come out and kind of be on standby, you know, in case something bad happens. And in talking with Harold, I know that they've done that in the past. They had some kind of a written agreement there where it released us from any liability. But basically, and like I told them, I said, you know, we can't actually help you do it, but I said, we can be right there in case something goes bad. I mean, we can be on it, you know, in just a matter of seconds, rather than waiting however long it takes us to get up there. So, depending on when it is, you know, if we get enough help, I've told people that we can probably work something out there, so. So, and fire activity has picked up a little bit. We've had 3 suspicious fires here in the past, in a month's time now, so. Had 2 up here in the last couple of weeks. So,
That's not good.
no, that's not good. But fortunately, they've been minor. I think the most was they burned up some hay bales, I guess, Sunday morning, up by North Woodson somewhere. So, but other than that, it's been minor so far. Anyway. So,
What do you want to be about the truck.
Which one do you've got the one in there, basically about same price, was it, or something?
Yeah.
Pretty close.
Yeah, there's like $100 difference between US Ford and Marmies.
And Marby's up at Great Bend, it'd be closer than two, wouldn't it, so.
I'd say that's where you need to go, is stay at some of this
We're supposed
Done a lot
to
of
take back
business with
services, will be,
Yeah,
So,
so I'll make a motion, we approve the purchase of the truck for Army voters, 21, what is it?
21,380.
second,
It's been moved and second. Any other discussion in regards to this purchase?
We're just doing one, or we do two brush trucks, or,
That we're doing one? Are we doing, what
well,
what was your proposal?
I proposed that we try to do two, do one for Maxville, and then put one here.
Thunder, you pay on this side.
there's money in the budget for that.
Well, we've got the emergency funding that we can purchase vehicles out of, is what I was looking at.
Your
The
exit,
reserve-
your.
the reserve fund.
Okay.
But you do have money budget
Oh, yeah,
for this?
yeah, the
In the
reserve,
reserve
the reserve
fund.
fund.
Reserve
we do.
fund, oh.
Not in his regular
Not
budget.
That's what I was
regular.
looking at.
What's the reserve fund got in it?
Last time I looked, it was close to 300,000.
Which is the one that's most important?
Well, we need the one at Maxville for sure, because
That's the one that's,
their big truck is on pins and needles right now. It's running. Actually, they brought it up here the other night when we had a fire north of town. So, but it's got some major mechanical issues,
and it's the oldest truck.
so.
So we didn't actually specifically budget for this, since it's not in your
No,
budget yet?
no, that's
Oh.
what we're needing to replace something. You know, we needed to get rid of that truck because of the fact that it's, like I say, it's limping along. We're doing with it what we can. And then I was looking at trying to retire one or two of the other smaller trucks that we have. Because right now in the entire county, we've got 23 trucks, and probably the newest one is like a 2002 model. Everything else is 10 years or older. So, that's what I was looking at.
Well, we got the money there and we need the two trucks.
I think probably go with one right now, I think if you take a reserve fund, I would think.
Now, what was the one that you're gonna take the bed off of one and put it on the other?
That's already been done.
That's been
That's
done.
the one.
That's,
That's
okay,
it.
That's what-
that was done.
Right.
Yeah, that was done.
All right, and so this one was Maxville and,
I was gonna take one of the old mini units out of service. We've got one that's an 83 model that I was gonna take out of service with the purchase of another one of these. So that'd give us two new trucks, and then we can bump the one that we have here in St. John into the back to the reserves, so.
Okay, so you pay push for two?
Yeah, I would say if the money is there in that reserve fund,
And like I say, this is the cheapest that we can do one from anything that I've researched.
Are you withdrawing your original motion?
okay, now we're starting all over again.
He made motion.
We make a motion that we purchase two vehicles.
two vehicles for the fire department.
Okay, I'll say.
It's been moved and second. Any other discussion in regards to this? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
And this is out of that reserve.
And we had a, what, 30-day, that bid was good for 30 days?
Yeah, it's good for another.
Okay. All right. One for me, one for you, and one for you.
Any questions?
I would like 10 minutes, that's not enough.
I'll make a motion, we're going to executive session for 10 minutes, to discuss non-elected personnel.
It's been moved and second, we'll go into executive session to discuss